my gosh, here we go. 20s now. So today is March 5th, aka the day I was born. Hello everyone. Today is March 5th. It's 12:40 p.m. and it's my 23rd birthday. Yeah, today I turned 23 and I always make vlogs talking about how life is in the moment, self-reflection, because a year has passed, which is crazy. Interesting to think about what was going on at the time and what my thought process was and how I was as a person. It's been a year with COVID officially, so it's been not that fun. Came back home, decided to just work at J. Crew for the time, and I feel like all I do is work now. Something I always talked about before. I'm like, oh yeah, like I can't wait till I just work all the time, and now I kind of regret that because I don't really care for working that much anymore. But it could just be the career or like the things I'm doing, like retail, that it's harder to kind of always be in the happiest mindset with all the time. It's been like crazy because I'm like, wow, I don't do like things involved with chemistry as much, and it feels like it's not like it was a burden, but it feels like something's been lifted off my shoulders where I just feel not tied down to this one thing. Like in school, it's like, you know, your degree or something you're working towards is basically your whole identity. That's always been in the back of my mind, but now I feel like I'm like lost, but it's a bit more freeing because I'm like, oh, the possibilities are up in the air, because it's like, oh, I still have my chemistry degree, but it's also like, oh, what if I do want to try learning about like marketing or like merchandising or something? That's totally up for grabs. It's not like I had to sign up for a class or anything, but that for work, and so it helps bring in life lessons at the same time that I don't have to pay for or like schedule in time. It really helped too to ease me being in that position too, because it's just people are like, oh, like you still like do retail but you have like a degree in things. But I don't know, it just felt like my gap year was that, because it was time to like get some income flowing, and I don't want to like rush myself into like grad school or something when everything's like online. I definitely need full-on experience, like hands-on experience is what I realized. And I think about like the most, it's like the memories that I did have like a good time in with chemistry, or like anything was a hands-on experience I actually got to deal with. Maybe after a while, like if I decide to go back to school, it's like more labs and like formulation type grad school, but I'm not in an entire rush. Senior year, I felt like timeline of things where I'm like, I definitely have to like do this, and like after graduation, I'm definitely gonna get a job, or I'm gonna travel and then find a job. It was very like textbook like, where it's like one thing came after another. It's just like, you know, what's the next chapter? I wanted to have something to like tell people, or I was like prepared to tell people. Kind of another like burden or like something off my shoulders, maybe that too with like COVID, because it's like, oh, everyone's dealing with the same thing, so it's not as like a stressor that I'm like, it's like, oh, I'm being left behind. Growing to like accept like everything that happens really like eases my like anxiety, which I stopped like thinking so much about like the future, because it's like, you know, with everything that happened, like definitely nothing's ever guaranteed in life, and so that really helped to like calm myself down if like things don't work out, or it's just kind of like going day by day versus like, oh, like what are my next steps, like should I like do this? It's like the overthinking part that really stressed me out too much. I wasn't like actually think if I'm like living day by day with my job, my time probably is gonna be coming to an end, because I just need to see what the next stage where I see myself going in life. I wanna go try like some other things, or like just take a mental break, because it's a while in retail really does take a toll on your mentality, like dealing with people all the time. It's like the Squidward meme of like every day you do the same thing over and over, and then his like smile turns into like a big frown because he's exhausted by the same thing. I feel like I've just reached that point in order to enjoy like every day, like until like I put in my 2 weeks, like it makes things more memorable and a more of an experience. I feel so grateful, like I have like workers that are like respectful and like are nice, not like a toxic work environment, which I'm like extremely grateful for. One thing of like why it's so hard to leave, because not everyone, especially retail mall job, like has that same experience. The reason they always want to like come in and out is because like the management and like everyone's not nice, so it's like of course you don't want to be in there long, like you want to move on, because you want to work in a toxic place for minimum wage. Like what? I want to work for a higher salary with possibly the same toxicity, but maybe not. So for quarantine, I realized like my other problems I have, but it's like I never acknowledge them. I need to like come to terms with myself in order to like grow and like accept who I am. In this book, it's like, oh wow, it's right here. Tiny beautiful things, because I saw it on TikTok. I remember reading this one quote: when you're like young, you know, in the growing stages, you're so afraid to like let yourself go or like make a fool out of yourself because nobody just wants to like make mistakes. You're just like trapped yourself in like this little ball that you never want to like change. Coming to terms with that is like helpful for me to see that it's like an accident. It's like no one's gonna remember it. It's just like a speck of time. It'll eventually become like irrelevant. So I also have a journal. Oh my god, I feel like quarantine has really turned me into some like art hoe or like poetic bitch. Some quotes that I thought were like pretty helpful as I was adventuring from 22 23, and I like hear someone say something, I'm like, oh wow, like I kind of like that. It's gonna sound so weird because like I take people who are like even real people, not just like from books. Or Albert, he's like, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready. I think that was something I was like, wow, even though it was like we were drinking, that's like completely different, like, you know, time and space, but I feel like I'm in like a fishbowl discussion. Maybe I should just like read them. My advisor, like, she gave me like, before I graduated, was like to just stay open to all my options, because all doors are open until like you close them yourself. You never know where life will take you or like what path is gonna be somewhere you'll actually be. Most relevant was like my theater professor, exercises we did in my like voice and movement class. He's like, be present, focusing on the now, like not like things going on in the future, nothing like that happened in the past. Like, I have a new perspective to me because I never think about present that much. I'm always like, I feel like there's a lot of people, you think about the past or you're always focused on the future, and both things are like not real. Like, one thing has already like happened, it's like in the past, and something hasn't happened which is in the future, and you don't even know if it's gonna happen. So I watched this TED talk and the person said, passion is not a plan but a feeling, and feelings change. People can change, feelings change. Like, so hard to grasp because you're like, you don't want to change, or like you want to change for the better, but like you don't want to change something that you're so like used to, that you're like comfortable with. It's from Diane von Furstenberg. I remember reading her book, The Woman I Wanted to Be, and I was just like, wow, I'm like inspired by her. She literally lived her life to like the fullest, like so many different connections. In her book, one door closed, another one opened. And then she also said, own your imperfections, own your vulnerability, it becomes your strength, which I think I need to do more of, is like owning my vulnerability. Like, I've learned to become more vulnerable because I like no longer see it as like a weakness. It's more of like something to try and turn into my strength. She always said, always listen, even if it doesn't seem useful, because it can become useful later on. Keeping your eyes and ears open. Who could be the person that opens another path for you? It was like in the beginning of 2020, I was pretty optimistic, or like at the beginning of quarantine when I was trying to do, it was like the beginning of self-reflection. Listed more things from this current book I'm reading, Tiny Beautiful Things. You can't fake the core. The truth that lives there will eventually win out. You can't continue to lie to yourself, because at some point, like, the truth will always be there. You'll always feel it like in your heart or in your gut. And I think it's always been like that with me. After like graduating, oh, I should have let myself go more and not stuck so hard to like chemistry or like certain things that I was not like too much of a fan for, but I only did it because you fake it till you make it type of stuff. I think for me, I'm always like, oh, like what if fashion was an opportunity, or what if like color chemistry was a thing, or offer more out there in this world. And so it's kind of like gaining more of my confidence to like find that type of stuff. Anyway, another quote she had was, you don't have to get a job that makes others feel comfortable about what they perceive as your success. And I think that one was just like freaking blew me out of the water. Like, man, this is me. Like, I've been always searching for a certain job, but I don't know if it's because I personally would like it, or it's what others perceive me as, like when I've reached my like success and what they perceive as success. To reevaluate my life. 22 to 23 thing was like kind of reevaluating my life and doing some self-growth, because what else is there to do in quarantine? Last thing I wrote down was, you have an obligation to play the hell out of the ones you are holding. In this particular quote, she was talking about kind of like a metaphor, like you're playing the cards with life and things like that. Sometimes people have like a good or bad deck. No matter what the cards are, you just have to play the hell out of it. So it's like no matter what situations come about, you just have to learn how you're gonna deal with it, you know? Because it's like some people may have like a proper advantage or like a disadvantage, but at the end of the day, it's like only up to you because you're the person in charge of like your cards. Which, oh, I always like thought I played the cards right, so like why isn't it working type of person. Did everything, like I try to play all the cards right, but it just doesn't work out. And part of the whole thing of what she's saying, it's like, oh, it's just like your obligations, just even if the cards don't work out, like what are you gonna do next type of thing. Sometimes I do some self-pitying, but like to myself, so it's like a whole like internal like monologue. I think about like tried harder at this certain point, like I should have like done more to like improve like my resume. Or at the end of the day, it's like those events have already passed, and it's kind of like, what are you gonna do? Like, every day I'm like, okay, like even though I don't have anything going on, or it's like I don't have like a life plan, like what am I gonna do as of right now? Like, you know, if like life isn't guaranteed, would I be satisfied with whatever happens like as today? I'm trying to like listen more to like my gut and like my heart, which I feel like is like extremely hard because in college I never did that, or like sometimes off impulse. It's different when it's about like your career or like your living situation or like, you know, real tangible things. So it's like scary. I'm in the beginning stages still of like figuring things out, but it feels like a lot of people have figured it out. Good for them type of situation. Like I really can't have like the time to like compare myself, nor should I, for good mental health reasons, because it's like everyone has gone through their own problem. Like prioritize like practicality as much anymore, or like logistical thinking, because I feel like before I was really trying to be logical, but now I'm like acting on impulse, how I feel. Maybe it's like a good thing, but I would never know until like I try it, which is like happening now. So hopefully it will be all right. I think it'll be helpful for me because it's like no one else is like in charge of my life except for me, or how much I want to like help people or like have like parents or like someone be proud of me. It's like at the end of the day, it's like kind of that momentary happiness, but it's never gonna like fill like a void of like my own happiness, which is like, what do I hope for 24? So 24, oh my gosh, I feel so old. I definitely hope that if I were to try like a career, I hope it's something like I'm genuinely interested in. I'm leaving it like open-ended because it's like I don't know what like my genuine interests are, and I don't want to like put it under one thing anymore. You just gotta live in the moment. Not YOLO, but just being present. Just one day at a time type stuff. This one's hard because it's like, even if I say something, a lot of things don't go to plan. So what I hope for is still healthy relationships with people, my current friends, new friends I make, family, and being more accepting of myself, of certain like downfalls or like faults I am, because I feel like I tend to like hide away some things that I find not as like successful as what other people would perceive as what I'm doing with my life. Being more in charge of my life is the goal. I have work today from 2 to 6, and then probably eat and be with family. That's all I can like hope for. I think last year it was raining. It's raining again this year too. I remember like every year I'd be really bummed that it's raining on my birthday, but like I think it's just part of like the day it is. I hope I can deal with my mentality better. I think it'd be interesting if I read more. I try to pick up ASL too, which I try to make every situation the best I can be. Like even if I don't like retail, I still find things that I'm like interested in to at least bring myself out of my funk, because it's like, you know, what attitude are you gonna bring like every day? Because it's like I could be like miserable every day but like still be there. But if I'm gonna choose to be there every day, like I better like be able to some sort of use for it, like learn ASL, because like I've never encountered many people who have to use ASL, so like I think it brings new perspectives, or like merchandising, being in charge of like larger projects. I think it gives me more control. I kind of stopped with like as much retail voice because of the way I talk. It's just always gonna be like that. So, you know, I'm still gonna try to be nice. That has really helped me to like be more like talkative or like still bring myself out. And I think another thing why I keep this job, like this rhythm I still have, is because like I'm afraid if I lose it, like I won't be able to like dress up as much anymore, which is like the stupidest like reason I wear is like who I am. If I worked in a lab, for instance, like I wouldn't wear like the clothes I really liked a lot, and so I feel like I'm losing like a part of who I am. The hardest part is like how much of myself am I gonna lose along the way, but like is it gonna be better sometimes to lose myself in order to like grow? Not to like toot my horn, I just feel like more insightful and kind of more in touch with who I am than like before. Like I always thought I was, but I was like on a surface level. I feel like this is like digging deeper. Thanks for tuning in for my 23rd, and I hope you find as much things that I thought were pretty insightful as I went from 22 to 23 to be relevant for you. But I'm still young, so you know, we growing together. Thanks for tuning in. I'll try to see you next year then. Bye.